Hi, I'm Scott Triple, and this is another presentation from Siegel Auction Galleries. In our last presentation, we talked about fancy cancellations, and a lot of those were produced during the Civil War, the American Civil War, from 1861 to 1865. Well, we're going to look at those same years, except not on the federal side of things, but on the Confederate side, because we're selling the Penguin collection of Confederate States postal history on Wednesday, September 25th. And it gives us a chance to look at some of the interesting things that were produced down south in the states that were in rebellion against the United States. The interesting thing about the Civil War is that you can look at what was happening just before the war and then look at the same sort of thing during the war. But we'll start with a pre-war slave dealers advertising envelope. These are extremely rare. Slave dealers did not produce a lot of advertising or what we call corner cards in the antebellum era. This particular one was produced by Thomas Powell, a slave broker and auctioneer in Montgomery, Alabama. And you could see the detail of his corner card where he describes himself as Negro brokers. It includes the original letter, and the letter complains about the poor market for slaves at the time. This was postmarked in September of 1859, a couple of years before the war. Now, the election of 1860, which is really the start of the Civil War, that's when Abraham Lincoln was elected president, and the southern states, the slaveholding states, decided to rebel against Lincoln's administration, and they seceded from the Union, formed their own government down in Montgomery, Alabama in February 1861. And a couple of years later, in 1862, at Fayetteville, North Carolina, someone used the old envelope for the Breckinridge Lane campaign. It pictures Breckinridge, who is one of the candidates, and the envelope was sitting around and they needed paper, so they used it. Very interesting and unusual use of a pre-war campaign envelope during the war. Because envelopes and stationery were so scarce and hard to get during the war, there weren't many high-quality corner cards and envelopes that were produced by publishers up in the north, stationers in New York City and Philadelphia. You couldn't get them in the South. These are very high-quality envelopes, and one used before the war has the 3-cent US stamp, and the other used during the war has the 5-cent blue Confederate general issue stamp. So you get a nice contrast, pre-war and Civil War period. The Isaacs cameo was produced in New York City by maybe the greatest of all cameo woodcut printers, Eves. So this Eves design is quite remarkable. The Griffin Female College in Griffin, Georgia, also used an elaborate cameo design picturing the building, the actual college. And you can see it in this photograph of the Griffin College building. This was taken at some point, and it shows the exact building that's portrayed in a woodcut design on the corner card. Now you'll notice it originates, the envelope originates in Griffin, Georgia, but the postmark is from Charleston, South Carolina. So someone during the war in 1863 or 64, when it was postmarked, brought the envelope to Charleston, South Carolina, and mailed the letter there. Another female school, college, was the Yallabusha Baptist Female Institute. And this is not a cameo, this is a regular woodcut design picturing the building. It was used from Caseyville, Mississippi, and it has very unusual and rare star cancellations, a 4-point negative star in a circle. This building, the Yallabusha Baptist Female Institute building, was opened in 1858, but the school closed during the war, and that building was used as a hospital. I mentioned that paper was scarce during the Civil War in the South. They didn't have a means to manufacture a lot of paper, and they couldn't import it from the North. So high quality envelopes and writing stationery were scarce, and that resulted in what we call adversity usages, the adversity being a lack of paper. Among the types of paper that were salvaged for use as envelopes was wallpaper. And this example is remarkable. It is a rose design, rose pattern wallpaper, folded inside out. So the blank side was on the outside where they could write the address. This was postmarked at Crawfordville, Mississippi. Crawfordville used a beautiful red ink for their postmarks, which is also unusual in the Confederacy. So here you have the perfect combination of a rose wallpaper envelope and a brilliant red circular date stamp. Another form of adversity envelope was the captured Union patriotic. When battles were fought and the Union forces left the field, or supplies were picked up, or even a soldier's backpack was ransacked, they would find paper that they could use, and the envelopes that were printed for use in the North were among the supplies that were down in the South with the Federal troops. In this case, a patriotic design picturing liberty carrying the United States flag was used with Confederate stamps and mailed in through a Confederate post office, probably around 1863. I hope this very brief presentation gives you an idea of what's in the Penguin collection of Confederate States postal history. The auction will take place on Wednesday, September 25th. You can see all the lots online at our website, siegelauctions.com. We look forward to answering any questions and to your participation. Thank you very much.